just where's our freedom? Freedom of sexuality. What's wrong with that? Literally nothing. Like nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. The shame society is, I think, unbelievably controlling and powerful in its nature, because all it has to do is get you in your head to flip the little circuit breaker back on yourself and not think, wait, that's not even my shame. That was all their shame. They taught me that shame. I wasn't born with that shame. We were all born touching ourselves. I don't know, like, hands are just going. Hands are checking out the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's no shame. Like, so where does that actually even come from? I think it's worth an exploration, especially if you experience it. I remember that growing up, just where the mind starts to kick in and wants to override pleasure, where the mind starts to kick in and wants to override impulse, where it wants to kick in and override just a desire to approach somebody or even talk to them. But ultimately, that's just unbelievably screwed up. Like, it's just unbelievably screwed up. Just that alone.
Yeah.
Like, you can just stop right there and say, okay, I think right there's where we bring some healing. Right there, we bring some openness. Right there, we start to work with that. And all we have to do is get the mind to learn it doesn't need to do that move anymore. We were taught that. We were taught that move to where we flip back on ourselves and we become introspective and we become internally pained over it. And, I don't think it's serving literally any of us anymore. I think of that as like old code. I now call that stuff old code. And I think like old code on your phone makes your phone run bad. Old code on your computer makes it run bad. I just think we need to rewrite that code with something new.
Yeah, a whole new story. And it's time to transition from an old story in its entirety with all of the different ways that your story weaves into that story and strengthens it with the strand of your string in the braid of the old story. And it's not only just weaving a new string in, we really actually need a new braid. That's actually weaving a whole new story that we can move in. It's actually a leap from one story to a whole other story. And there will be bridges. We'll be able to bridge some of that. And we're bridging in the time between stories. But yeah, it feels to me like that's the go time that we were referencing at the start. The go time is like, it's time to build that new story. And in the process of that, everything that's been supported by the old story is going to start to crumble. And as it crumbles, it's as with any entity structure that's in danger, it's going to freak out. It's going to lash out. It's going to, and I think we've started to see some of that. These control structures start to get like spasmy in these kind of like death throes that you can kind of see where they're starting to lose the control that they've enjoyed for thousands of years in different forms. Empire in control for thousands of years. As people become more sovereign, more free of thought, more free of heart, more free of, consciousness.
Has to happen. I don't think the earth stops evolving ever. And once humans started to create in our own evolution aspects of the matrix that became permanent, you, by doing so, naturally create a scenario where there will be a cycle of evolution associated with that. So maybe those structures worked really well to get us from like 1 million humans or 2 million humans to 8 billion humans.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work well to go from 8 billion humans to 16 billion humans.
Yeah.
It doesn't work well to build triple the actual physical infrastructure. It doesn't work well to increase the amount of protein we need by something, I think it's 600 to a billion, 600 million. Yeah. No, it's 600 million to a billion metric tons a year more protein has to be created. Like just for sustainable food production, it doesn't work well when you start thinking of financial systems that boom and bust and crumble underneath each other. Like these things have to ultimately evolve into something else. And they're going to. Like the people that think they can hold on to that forever are wishing for a legacy that includes them not aging, that includes them not having to actually face life itself, that includes, an idea that they can somehow maintain and sustain only one way of life forever. And that's never going to happen here on Earth. Earth evolves way too fast. When I first heard of evolution, I read it through, Darwin's books and concepts were there and I tried to grasp it. And it seemed like it was a very slow process the way it was described, right? It's sort of like those, like the science TV shows from, 30 years ago where everything is slowly described. And I came to realize actually Earth is evolving at the speed of light. So everybody watch out. Like watch out. If you want to see how fast Earth evolves, think about how fast COVID evolved. Think about how we went from one concept to 2 to 4 to 6 to 8, like in less than a year.
Yeah.
Like it just boom, 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 boom. The code of this place is changing. It's genetic code, it's molecular code, it's cellular code. This place is changing so fast. We're changing with it, but we don't like it. So we tell this much slower story. We count ourselves in years, decades, you know, we give ourselves this long life. You're changing just as fast. And it's happening on a cellular replicating model inside yourself. We just don't see it that way, but it's happening all the time. So these social structures that we've created that have imprisoned us, really mostly in our mind more than anything, are going to evolve. How they evolve, well, I think that's ultimately up to us because we created them.